say it. That way I take the
Okay,
pressure
yeah,
off.
if I f it up, then you can say it. Okay.
For sure. All right, so where's my camera?
Yeah, I know. Where's my camera?
Are these products going to change your life? Yes, they are. Okay, wow. That's like a big statement. Because now the products are actually non-toxic and they are actually useful for the skin.
ZEN Essentials, because your health is essential.
Ryan the Farmer, Part 12.
I'm your host, Dr. Alexis Hazen. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon who specializes in breast surgery and gender-affirming surgery and cosmetic surgery. I have a holistic approach to wellness and longevity. I've been practicing in New York City for over 20 years and continue to learn and educate as an associate professor at NYU Langone. Please join me in our mission to discover Zen. Welcome to the Dr. Zen Podcast. I'm so happy to have Dr. Marsha Harris with me. Hi. She's a rock star, but in addition to that, she's also an assistant professor of surgery at the NYU Langone Health, I guess they call it now, right? Okay. And she's double boarded in general surgery and colorectal surgery. I didn't even know that until I looked you up. And she's an all-around awesome person. She's a great role model and mentor to many. She also was an incredible basketball player. She's an NCAA superstar and has won many awards, including the NCAA 2023 Silver Anniversary Award, which is actually a really big deal. And she's generally just like a badass and one of my favorite people. So we're going to talk today about her being a badass and awesome and being a Black female surgeon, stating some of the obvious, but also things that people don't know, which is that she had a kidney transplant and was sort of suffering on dialysis and then ended up having a transplant. So anyway, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So let's just dive right in. I want you to tell about your experience. I mean, it's so weird to be a doctor and a patient.
Yes.
And to be on the other end of services is very disarming, I think.
Yes.
You also can learn a lot. So tell me a little bit about how you ended up needing a kidney transplant.
So in my family, we have polycystic kidney disease.
Okay.
I didn't believe that it ran through my mother's line because from my knowledge, she didn't have polycystic kidney disease. So she passed away of stomach cancer in 1994.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
Before any kind of signs of
Yeah.
kidney problems. So here I was starting to be an attending, like my first year of being attending. And I felt like I was laying down one day. I was like, well, what's this thing? I didn't really know what was going on. It just felt really large. So, we're doctors, so we go to the worst. I got lymphoma. My spleen is big. So the first thing I thought.
Yeah, you have like the differential diagnosis of 20 items that could all kill you.
Exactly.
And the treatment is worse than being dead. So, yeah.
Right. So we go to the worst, naturally. So I end up getting an ultrasound, and I'm lying there, and I'm like, you can see.
You're looking at the ultrasound.
Yeah, you're looking at the screen.
That's always good too.
Yeah. So immediately you know what the problem is. So
Right.
I knew then that I had polycystic kidney disease.
Oh wow! And you had no idea.
No idea. The only sign I could remember was, I think I was in my third year of at NYU, and I was at a basketball. Oh, we were leaving for a basketball game, and I had blood in my urine. We couldn't figure out why. So they took me to the ER in Cleveland, nonetheless. So we went to the ER in Cleveland, and there was blood, and they just assumed it was a UTI. I didn't think of it. And then, they gave me some antibiotics. Eventually, the blood passed. But in retrospect,
that was probably the beginning of it all.
Exactly. Yeah. That was likely a cyst rupture. Basically, after they made the diagnosis, I was doing really well. Nothing to really talk about. I actually was involved in some studies at Yale and Cornell to kind of gather data to study a drug that would help people like me who hadn't at the time started to have kidney decline.
Oh, what's the drug?
Tolvaptan.
Okay. Say that 10 times fast.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're marking it as right now, but it did pass, and my cousin is using it, so
Oh,
I guess
cool.
it was worthwhile. But at some point during the process, I kept on having cyst ruptures, and that caused decrease in kidney function. So basically, with polycystic kidney disease, the cysts grow and they eat up normal functioning kidney. That's working well. So once you start to break the good kidney down and fill them up with cysts, then your kidney function declines. So I was rocking out with these bum kidneys, doing my job, and then my nephrologist said at some point you're going to need to get a transplant. And I'm like, for what? Like I'm okay.
Yeah.
But at 20, at a GFR, glomerular filtration rate of 20, they start looking to get you transplanted. So
Okay, just emotionally, were you kind of shocked?
I mean, at the speed of it all, I
Yeah.
knew at some point it may
Yeah.
get there, but
Yeah.
it was like in a short period of time, like within 10 years, I was from normal to now knocking on the door, I need a kidney transplant. So it
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute, like how did I get
Yeah.
here? I wasn't afraid because other members of my family had been transplanted before.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't seem foreign and it didn't seem scary. So it kind of seemed matter of fact, okay, what do I need to do? Where do I need to go?
Yeah.
Like just point me what I need to do.
Yeah.
Essentially
You just-
overall. And I
Where are
just
my
did.
marching orders?
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't do too much thinking. I wasn't that crazy doctor that wanted to research everything. I actually had no interest in that. I said, just tell me what to do. I don't want to get too crazy about this. And then just went about my daily.
So you're working and
Working.
cutting people open and
It was not a big deal for me. And then it came to the point where you have to decide, like, do you have to go on dialysis or not? By the time my GFR was 20, I'm already listed, but I'm still walkie-talkie going around doing my thing.
do you have any symptoms? Like when
Really, when it gets bad, when you've realized
Yeah.
that you're okay, I need to be transplanted, the fatigue level is unbelievable.
Oh, okay.
Right? You wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, when can I go back to bed? And then you kind of go through your schedule. Okay, if I do this and I get home, I'll be back to bed like 6 or 7. So it's like a whole calculation because you're tired.
You're just so tired.
Right.
Yeah.
You mean you're functional, but
Yeah.
I don't think I acknowledged how tired I was until after you got the kidney transplant because then
Because
everything
then your energy level boosted
right.
up.
And remember, it's kind of like losing blood when it's slow chronic
Yeah,
loss.
yeah.
It's like
You
it's a
don't-
slow decline, so you don't appreciate it on a daily basis.
Were you short of breath or anything like that? No.
No,
Okay.
no shortness of breath. The real thing that pushed him to make me do dialysis was that the GFR, the BUN, the urine nitrogen kept going up and up and up and up. The creatinine they don't care about after a while because it's like it's just going to go up and
Yeah.
nobody cares. But they cared about the urea nitrogen. So he was like, enough's enough. You got to get this. So he initially wanted to give me a fistula. I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing
So
that.
a fistula is when they connect the artery and the vein to keep so that they can do dialysis through that chronically.
Right. So I was like, no.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't.
You wouldn't
I
do it
agree.
either, right?
I wouldn't do it either. I'm too vain.
Right. So the
Like
other,
I'm sorry.
but also
I'm not a
it's our
fistula
hands.
person. Yeah, it is our hands.
So
yeah.
this is what we make our money
Yeah.
with. So when you
Yeah.
start talking about a fistula, it's not a benign process.
No, I
you can
agree.
have numbness, tingling, all kind of problems with it. So I opted for an alternative, which wasn't popular in America, very popular in China, which is peritoneal dialysis. They put a catheter through your abdomen and basically use your abdominal lining to filter your body of its toxins.
I mean, taking a step back, and if it's not you, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry this happened to you, but just like scientifically, that's actually really cool. That
No, it's fascinating.
That it's possible.
It's fascinating and it provides a better lifestyle.
Yeah.
You're not stuck on the machine for 3 hours. You're not absolutely exhausted because they emptied out your whole blood volume and give it back to you.
Yeah, that's like a process.
Yeah.
It's like going to a vampire a few times and then
Exactly. So it was much more functional, gave me a lot more freedom, and made practicing medicine a lot easier. Because you can imagine if I had to be out of the office 3 times a week for 3 hours a day,
Yeah, you can't
do
do
that.
it.
You can't come
No.
back functional and be an asset to a patient. In that
Right.
realm.
So where did you physically do the peritoneal dialysis?
So you do it at home.
Oh.
There's not a center or anything. One of the prerequisites that you must have a place where you could stock all these supplies. So a truck comes to your house, usually a Baxter truck, and drops off all these supplies, like you're in a supermarket. That's how many boxes of stuff there is. And then every month you make a little tally, you send off your list of what you need, and they drop it off again in another month.
And then you do it every night?
Every night.
Every night.
Every night.
So you stick, there's a catheter.
There's a catheter, it's about yay long,
That's kind of long.
And then, how I used to hide it was I used to wrap it in a circle and then put it under my belt line.
Oh, wow.
So that no one could see it. Mm-hmm. And if you gave me a hug, you wouldn't know it was there.
Oh, that's
Right?
ingenious. Yeah.
Right. So that catheter actually screws on to the tubing that leads to this, what we call a cycler, which is a machine that cycles the fluid in and out of your abdomen. So it'll pour in like 2 liters of fluid, and then it'll your abdominal wall will filtrate it, and then it'll suck it out.
And you
then,
do this every night.
Every night.
Makes for a great sex life.
Absolutely. The long wire is all the rage. but it takes about 10 hours. Yeah,
So
it's not small. So you got to get on it early. Make sure you've eaten. Make sure whatever you need is at arm's length. The bathroom, I have a master suite.
Thank you.
So I can just walk right into the bathroom, and the tubing is long enough. So, it worked. And
that's a huge commitment.
I mean, it could be worse.
Yeah,
but
it could, I guess
be
so.
worse.
I
thought I was a cell phone. I just would plug in at night and then unplug in the morning.
And were you aware of any sensation, any feelings that you felt better, worse?
Definitely in the beginning. In the beginning, because you're pulling off all the toxins that build up over time. But once you're on it, and on it for a little while, you don't really feel much of a difference afterwards. But in the beginning was a huge difference. Like my whole world opened up. I was like, I could see again.
Oh, and meanwhile, are you still peeing?
I was a urinator.
Yeah, but sometimes you... they say that about you. Everybody in the dictation room in the surgery office is like, she's a urinator.
Yeah. But some people stop urinating, but I was fortunate to continue urinating. Not a lot. Like even when they would do the testing, like 24-hour urine, I was like, I got this. I pee in the morning, and because you have to dump the first one. And then the next day, I would hang on to all the urine to the next day and then dump that all in the thing, and then I'd be done. I wouldn't have to walk around with a canister to work.
Well, that's a plus. So you're doing this, and for how many months did this go on?
About a year and 6 to 8 months. I can't remember exactly.
So you're even more amazing than I thought, because no one knew this, correct? So you had partners at work, they didn't know this, and you're just like sucking it up and just like putting your head down and being fun in the OR. And I saw you through this. I had no idea. Yeah. I was still cute, right? You were cute. You were very cute. You have remained cute. Was there ever a time, did you ever get really bloated or,
No.
Okay.
I never had like the swollen ankles or anything like that. The only thing is that you're carrying around 2 liters in your belly, so I had a little round pouch, but beyond that,
it gets hidden in the scrubs.
That's
true. Why we all gain weight.
That's the beauty.
You can't see it. Okay, so this goes on for how long before you get on the transplant list?
Well, I'm already on the transplant list once my GFR hits 20, right?
Okay, right.
But I don't need dialysis yet because they're waiting for me to deteriorate to the point that they need to put me on dialysis. So that happens right around a GFR 10. So I was like a year and a half after that. So then I was able to accrue time on the list while not being on dialysis. Okay. So that's the key.
That's the key.
To get on early so that while you're still functioning, you're eating up time on the list.
Yeah. And then is it just, they just bump you up as people get transplants?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you slowly make your way up the list.
And then you listed in 2 states?
Yes, I listed in New York, of course, and also listed in Florida because my family is there. So.
Okay. Where's your family?
In Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
So then... I'm on this peritoneal dialysis and just doing my thing, going to work, coming home.
And are you like, you're fine? Like you're not upset?
Fine.
You're just one day at a time? Like
I think it was a one day at a time. Help me help you.
Because if I have like a cold, I'm a disaster.
I didn't take a defeatist role. I didn't make myself a victim.
Okay.
I said, okay, this is what we got to do. And like I said, I had an example of someone in my family that already had it. So I know that all I have to do is bide my time. And eventually my day would come and I would be better. Fortunately, though, that's my only problem. It's not like I had diabetes or other comorbidities. All I had was this.
Yeah,
so
the rest of you was good.
Rest of me, so they say. But
it's quite questionable in some 50, areas.
But ultimately, I'm functioning. Yeah. Because the only thing that's wrong is really the kidney. So, I'm doing what I do. I'm being who I am. And then one Saturday morning at 5 a.m., I get a call from University of Miami. And they're like, hey, we have a kidney for you.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
So what'd you say?
I said,
coming
sure.
right there?
I said, don't move. No, well, actually, that's a good point because I'm telling the lady, she's like, yeah, you got to be here in 2 hours. I was like, ma'am, I don't live here. I'm in New York.
Yeah.
So she had to talk to the surgeon first.
Oh, to
see if it was
jets.
okay.
Yeah.
So then she called me back and then told me it was okay. So then I bought a ticket, got the last ticket in Delta first class. Now imagine being on first class and you can't even eat the food. Because I was not sure when it was going to happen.
Right.
So I made myself NPO, meaning nothing per os, means we can't eat. And
I'd be okay with that. I'd have a hard time passing up the champagne.
Yeah, it was 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, well,
So, I get there, they run their blood test, they run the tests on the kidney and make sure everything is good. And
you alert your family.
Yeah, them too.
Yeah,
Some of them didn't know. So some of the ones that knew, and then the other ones that didn't know now knew.
So they didn't know because you kept it private.
Right. For my own sanity.
Okay, I'm gonna remember this. If I ever have a big secret, I'm gonna tell you because you're like a vault. You're not telling anybody anything.
Al Capone.
Right? Okay, so then now are you nervous? Are you excited? What's the mood?
I think
It's like going into an NCAA championship.
not even. I was very calm actually.
Really?
I didn't care. It just seemed like it was putting an end to the process. Like, okay, this is what we're here for. So I was very expectant, and I was like, okay, this is what we had to do. It was a relief, actually. It was an exhale. Okay, this day is finally here.
Right.
It's kind of like getting married. It's like, okay, you plan, and then you're like, okay, the day is here.
Yeah, then there's nothing left to do except just
exactly, just to
ride it out. So you had the surgery. You remember anything about going to sleep or?
I remember the kidney was on the side in the little box. And they were like,
really?
you want to see it? I'm like, nah, it's okay. You can just put it in one at a time. Because it has to be on like something to pump it with
the fluid.
Yeah, to preserve it.
Did they tell you anything about the donor?
Yes. The donor was 15-year-old. 15-year-old boy. Died in a motor vehicle collision. I believe he was a back seat. Why do I remember that? I don't know. And it was in Orlando. And he donated another kidney and pancreas as a unit to someone else. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, I can't remember if the liver was also donated, but I definitely remember because I was like, well, where'd the other kidney go? So the other kidney went with the pancreas to another person.
It's incredible. So then you have the surgery. How long was it?
Actually, about 2.5 hours because I was done like a little bit after 8, like 8:30. I went in like 6.
It's fast.
So keep in mind, these people had already done 6 kidneys and like 2 livers already that day.
Oh, so you were
so they're not playing around.
They're like in and out.
Yeah.
And then how did you feel?
I don't remember.
Have you had surgery before then?
Oh yeah, plenty of little nicks and necks.
Okay, all
but
right.
nothing
major.
where they had to open my abdomen.
Yeah.
So, but I was sore.
You are.
Yeah, definitely sore. But I mean, beyond that, it was just a matter of, us. Like, what can I get out of here? Like, so
yeah, you just wanted. How long did they keep you?
A week because I had Ogilvy's. You know what that is? So basically, my electrolytes were all a mess. So my colon was all dilated and I was just all bloated. I begged for NG2. It didn't help though. They were like, she must really be
not
uncomfortable.
feeling so good.
Yeah.
So you were just bloated out.
Yeah, I was just 6 months pregnant with this belly.
That's not fun.
And then finally, I was able to pass gas. Never been so excited to pass gas before. And then
that was like our famous question on surgery rounds.
Yeah.
Like I could say, "Can you pass gas in every language?"
Yes.
All right.
Yes, absolutely.
Chinese.
Exactly.
Remember Beekman? Or that was after?
No, we went to Beekman. We did go to Beekman,
okay.
but like Bellevue is when you had to break out the Chinese. Did you pass gas?
Oh yeah, it's the best.
I don't remember what it is now. You remember
Feng
what it is?
Pei.
Oh, Feng Pei.
And then did you take a dump? Is da bien?
Yeah, look at you.
Yeah. Kind of somewhat of a language connoisseur, they would say.
I see.
I've forgotten the Russian though. We had the
you got me
contingency on. Okay, so you Feng paid.
Yes.
And then you got out of there.
Better. So they discharged me. I ended up going back 2 days later with a UTI and sepsis.
Oh, oh no.
Yeah.
Were you aware of that immediately? Like, did you have mental status changes? Were you
No.
Okay.
I knew I had a high fever
Okay.
and didn't feel so hot and that kind of stuff.
So were you just retaining urine?
No, I was peeing.
Oh, okay.
I was definitely urinating every 2 hours, actually.
Oh,
And I was like, is this normal? And I realized it was a part of the urinary tract
infection,
infection. Yeah.
So then they treated that with antibiotics?
Yeah, I was there for another maybe 5 days.
Oh, so that's a while.
Yeah, then I went home again. And then it was progressing fine. And then again, I think I went back like 3 times with a UTI. Then they finally...
Is that common?
Yes.
Okay,
very
I did
common.
not know that.
They usually said like after 3 months it'll stop. And it did after 3 months.
So, were you on the transplant team?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we both operated on the transplant team at different stages of our careers. But
Right.
I don't remember that bit because I think that was more chronic care. We just did the acute transplants.
Right. Because some of them they treated it as an outpatient, but it's only 2 or 3 times I came back.
Okay.
And then once I came back to New York, I had to fly back like a week later because there's a little curlicue where my renal artery attaches to my iliac artery. So it was a long branch, so it kind of winds. So they saw that the velocities were high at the turn. So they were concerned for narrowing.
Okay.
And they just realized, they had me do the special MRI that they do down there to kind of decide whether they should intervene or not. And they decided not to intervene, and I took my butt back home. And I went to work on Monday.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
How many weeks?
By then it was 3 months. Because
Yeah.
I saw my nephrologist in New York, and that's when they noticed the high flow.
And
then they
were
sent me
you
back.
feeling pretty good at that point?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you were strong.
Yeah.
Were any restrictions on activity or anything like
No.
that? No, so you do
That was
everything.
normal.
Okay, you don't play basketball anymore, but you play tennis. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could play tennis. You
Yeah,
could do
yeah.
all that. And then what was your mindset? And did you still keep it a secret?
Well, no, at that point, I had to tell them when I was going under the knife that I'm not coming to work for 3 months. So I was like, I told them when I was sure that I was getting a transplant that, listen, I'm having surgery and I won't be back for a little bit.
And what was their reaction?
Oh, okay, go take care of yourself.
Oh, that's good. That's the right reaction.
That's the right answer.
That's the right answer.
Well, that's how they felt, really. I don't know.
Right. Doesn't really matter.
Right.
And now recently, you're going to have to help me out here. You've been elected to the Health
All right.
Equity Transplantation
Coalition.
Okay,
All right,
I
so
got
this
halfway
is a weird, not weird story, but interesting story. So I was out with my lawyer.
As we tend to go out with
Our
our lawyers. Yeah.
And he apparently was a lawyer for Al B. Shore, who was a pop artist. He's very popular in the 80s and 90s. And he was like, oh, do you want to meet him? And I'm like, okay. So then we meet up, and we meet at a bar. And then, not bar, it was like a rooftop. So we're there, and, he's there with his group, and we're there. And, like, he starts talking about, like...
Is he nice?
He's very nice.
Yeah.
Very compassionate, very nice. So he starts talking about having a chevron. So immediately my head spins around like The Exorcist. I'm like... That's like for like big liver, big transplant surgery.
Yeah.
And that's when he said,
Chevron is an incision.
Yeah.
And it's
Huge.
a big down your whole belly, and it's not, we don't see it that often.
Exactly. So then that's when it comes out that he has a transplant.
And he has a liver. Okay.
He has a liver transplant.
So you like bonding over your transplant.
Exactly.
Like, I've got a kidney.
Yes.
You got a liver.
Literally. Look
Anyone-
at my pill box.
Yeah.
It's the whole shenanigans. So he then launches, like, this is now a year later now, because I saw him when he was 6 months out. He's doing so much better now. And he launches this campaign called Health Equity and Transplantation Coalition. He's the executive chairman. And his senior advisor is Al Sharpton. And they're working with actually Newt Gingrich and Representative Conway, forgive me, I forgot his first name, who has a transplant. And the whole...
Ooh, both sides of the map. I like it.
Exactly. So you're on both. It's bipartisan.
Yeah. I
And
love
basically
that.
the approach is to talk to Medicare about reversing a decision that they made about paying for a blood test that we use to detect rejection 3 to 4 months before you even start to manifest, signs that you're rejecting.
Because the alternative to that blood test
Is a biopsy.
And a biopsy is a big deal.
Yes.
It's invasive. It's
Yes.
painful.
You can lose the organ. You can bleed to death.
You can bleed. I mean,
Yeah.
people have bled to death from
Absolutely.
biopsies, so it's a big deal.
So that's what the coalition is really, talking about, trying to get Medicare, any kind of CMS organization, Medicare, Medicaid, want them to pay for this test. So these patients who've gotten these transplants, by the grace of God and its luck in being fortunate to get these organs, so they can preserve the organ and be able to live healthy lives by having the opportunity to intervene sooner. So if they have this blood test, then they can intervene sooner rather than wait till the organ is already damaged further.
So let's just stop right there. And the whole thing is cost, right? Like, that's what it all boils down to.
For them, I think if they look at it as a direct cost, because it is like $3,500.
But that's why it's probably being denied.
Right.
But they're not long term.
Right. They're not thinking bigger cost.
Right. Which is if you reject an organ
right.
and it's not caught, then you're going to need a new transplant. You're going to have to go back on dialysis
Exactly.
or whatever. And in some
Dialysis
cases,
is expensive.
Yeah.
Very
and
expensive.
For liver, there's not really a great option for dialysis.
Right.
There's that circulatory system, but it doesn't really work very well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really what the organization, the coalition, is working on at this moment, to try to get that ruling reversed so that patients can get this blood test when they need it.
And then you're like Madam Ambassador. I mean, what's the deal here?
I was just walking down the street minding my business. No, I'm just kidding. So essentially, because of our interaction during that that time at the rooftop bar, like, you know, he realized my benefit in being a doctor, because I can talk about it from that standpoint, and being an actual patient who's had the test and how I benefit from it. So I'm functioning as an ambassador to basically push this narrative so they can see that this is something that's needed. It's not like a cavalier test. Like it's something that is of value that can actually save CMS money and save a lot more lives in the process.
100%. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer to us, right? But, you know.
But the parties that be are responsible.
Exactly.
I don't know if they really are looking at the big picture.
Right.
They just probably looking at the fact that it's $3,500.
I'm sure that's their bottom line on
Right.
that one. So you've been through a lot. You seem no worse for the wear. I witnessed this at work, and you know, you seemed absolutely the same. You know, so how has it informed you as a doctor? Like now, do you think about things any differently in terms of your patients? I mean, I think you've always been a huge advocate for your patients. You've been incredibly kind and very, deliver the most excellent care. But is there anything that's different having been a patient?
Maybe a little bit more patience. I mean, because I think I'm patient anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little bit more patience when they start to maybe get frustrated, or if they start to act out. Kind of put yourself in their shoes sometimes. I mean, I'm a pretty even-keeled person, so I was able to manage it a little easier. But I can't make everyone see life through the same lens that I see it through.
Right.
So you have a little bit more patience. You be a little bit more reassuring. You try to build confidence, you know, in the process that they're going to, and kind of give them an optimistic outlook so that they don't get so discouraged.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your story of the transplant and your care is a really good one in terms of you were offered solutions that worked for you, enabled you to live your life, go on. And then, you know, when the transplant actually happened, it was efficient. It was, things sort of lined up. I think sometimes people get frustrated because they get so much bad care out there, and they get shuffled around the system and no one listens to them. And, and they don't maybe have a voice. I mean, you have the right language to
That's the advantage, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. That's also why we're working with the coalition, so that we can give those patients a voice who may not be able to communicate what they're missing or what their needs are, to kind of give a platform for that. And then hopefully, that's another thing I think I've changed. I've given the patient information so they can speak for themselves, so they can advocate for themselves. Because oftentimes you may go to see the doctor, what's wrong with you? Okay, this is what you need, and they write them off.
Right.
But I think it's important to educate them on what they have, so that they know, you know, when there's a problem, when there's not a problem, what can be expected. And I think the not knowing part is a part that usually brings the anxiety and frustration.
Absolutely. I think if you don't know what lies ahead and you're just kind of waiting for, you know, the other shoe to drop, it's terrifying for most people. And most people you know, it's kind of like when you first had the swelling. Right. A lot of people just jump to conclusions and think of the absolute worst possible thing.
Like you're pregnant.
Yeah.
That
ship has sailed.
I'm like, I'm not pregnant. It's fluid, I swear.
So what kind of surgery do you do?
So I
know, but for our listeners.
I'm so excited about this question.
It's the best.
So I do colon rectal surgery, which is basically a very diverse field. So I can go in and take your colon out for colon cancer, diverticulitis, and put you back together, or I can just work on your anus. I can drain abscesses. I can take care of your hemorrhoids. I can do pelvic floor reconstruction, which is my favorite, like when you have pelvic organ prolapse.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
that's not a pretty problem.
No, it's not.
Tell our listeners what that is.
So pelvic organ prolapse.
It's very common, though.
Very, very, very.
Especially in multi-parous women.
Yes. Women has had a lot of children.
Yeah.
Or even people who strain a lot for whatever defecatory dysfunction that they have.
Why do people strain so much when they poop?
Sometimes it's the quality of the poop. Sometimes it's also how often they're going. Sometimes it's how they've been socialized to believe they should move their bowels.
Really?
Like some people, like they have to have a bowel movement in the morning, so they sit there and they push and push and push until something happens. And then there's more complex cases like pelvic floor dysfunction when they feel an urge to go, but in reality there's nothing there. So you're trying to respond to a stimulus
that doesn't exist.
Right,
okay.
Exactly. So these are reasons why.
The ghost in the machine.
Exactly.
So, and what's your favorite operation?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think I prefer the pelvic floor reconstructions because they make me feel like I'm a plastic surgeon. Like when you have for
Stealing
example,
my thunder.
No, not really, but it's fun. I have an interesting case I want to do with Jamie, which is another plastic surgeon who's absent today.
Who's absent today.
But
she's a superstar fill-in.
right? I'm just the add-on. I'm the what's he called? The one that's the understudy.
Understudy.
I'm the understudy.
Understudy.
But
No, you're the true talent.
You think
Come
so?
on, absolutely.
I'll tell Jamie tomorrow. So when we do pelvic floor reconstructions, like if you have a cloaca, where it's when your vagina and your anus is one piece.
That's not good. Last time I
bad
checked.
problem, bad
NG, not good.
Yeah, so you can really fix the problem, improve a patient's body outlook, and improve their sex life and their bowel functions, control their bowel
All
functions.
in one fell swoop.
All in one fell swoop in a
I like
2-hour
that.
operation.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
That is.
that's my favorite because it makes me feel like a plastic surgeon because I'm able to take the muscles and bring them in the middle and kind of reconstruct things and put them back in order.
You feel like a magician, right?
I do.
Don't chickens have cloacas?
Ooh, we're going to have to look into that
I
one.
think they do. We'll have to look into that
The
one.
last one I ate, I got to take a look.
Yeah. So you are badass. I've said that. Every time I see you, I think I say that because it just rolls off the tongue. You are in a field that's very male dominated, even more so than my field, I would say.
Yeah, it's getting better.
It's getting
It is
better.
getting better. I think the number of female colorectal surgeons are increasing every year.
And when you were a resident in general surgery, there were a fair number of female surgeons.
Yes, we had, I think I had 3 in the original class, including myself, and the graduating class also had 3.
But you're one of very few black female surgeons.
That is true.
And I happen to know 2 others who
Right.
I'm, relatively close with.
Right.
But, talk a little bit about how that was hard or not hard. And I know it is who you are. So, you've been black your whole life and you've been female
Every
your
other
whole
Tuesday.
life.
No, I was kidding. But,
so this is not something new. But,
Right.
But I do think the challenge is different in a field that has so little representation.
Right. I think that's the important part. Then even deciding to become a surgeon is a serious decision because you don't really see anyone that looks like you. And it's notoriously a male, white male dominated field. So you're just like, am I going to fit in? I think everyone in their life is looking for their tribe, right?
100%.
So you really want to fit in. You want to do something where you're going to fit in.
Yeah, you want people that talk filthy and are hardworking.
Exactly.
and can laugh.
Naturally.
Yeah.
But so deciding to become a surgeon, what made it easier was seeing Kathy Joseph doing it. Because Kathy Joseph is another female black surgeon that does breast surgery. And she was a chief when I was a medical student, chief resident.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, we do this? I said, okay, then maybe I can do this. Because initially I thought I was going to do OBGYN. And I was like, nah, this is not for me.
Oof, I thought the same.
Yeah, after rotation, I was like, this is just not my zhuzh.
Not my thing.
No.
Yeah.
So I was able to do a case with another colorectal surgeon, Doug Steinbreck.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he's not colorectal, plastic
surgeon. Yep,
right.
yep,
So
yep.
he actually, I was the only one around actually. The resident, God knows where he was. So he actually let me do some of the case.
Really?
And it changed my life. I was
That's
like,
amazing.
I have to do this.
So it must have been Bellevue.
It was
General
absolutely
surgery.
Bellevue. Yeah.
Okay.
It was the middle of the night, Bellevue.
I'm just picturing. I've been
And
there.
it was an
done that.
appy.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
He just let me cut skin and my whole world opened up. I was like, I cannot do anything else.
I remember my first case was you're going to love this. It was a rectal abscess.
There you go. And it changed your life.
Yeah. And they let me cut skin and I was like, wow. I mean, that sounds creepy. I know that sounds creepy, but it's there's something to it. You know, it's very
it's empowering.
It is empowering.
Yes.
Okay, so what bad things happened?
What
was
things?
hard?
I think finding the tribe part, because obviously when you don't look like someone in their life experience, they don't really deal with people that look like you.
Yeah.
They're going to see life through a certain lens, which is often painted by stereotypes that we have in our surroundings, in our social system. So then you're now you're spending your time trying to undo what was already done.
Yeah.
And some people are not intentional. They're not trying to be difficult. I think there's definitely a lot of subconscious bias.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the hard part is when you've proven that you're just like everybody else and then it still happens.
That's
a
very
difficult
frustrating.
Part.
Yeah.
That's a difficult part because the expectations become different, and I don't have the luxury of, representing myself. I now represent everybody. Like once you are in a situation where you're the one of one, and there you have people that may not have interacted with you, your demographics often, then everything you do is how they're informed.
That's a lot of pressure. They said in unison.
Yes.
So how did you manage that or deal with it?
I mean, I'm an
Humor.
athlete. I mean,
Yeah.
I got the ball in my hands at the end of the quarter with 1 second left. I mean, so you approach it in the same manner. You can only control what you can control.
Right.
So I can't control how people view me or whatever biases they have. I could just be the best example of who I am. And then it's up to them to take that data and do with it as they may. Some people you'll change their outlook. Some people you won't. You probably would never change their outlook because they're steadfast in their ideologies. But you just do the best you can. You control what you can control.
So what do you think was harder in terms of the issues we're talking about, being a resident or being an attending?
I would say probably being an attending.
Really? Because I'll tell you a story about my residency that's pretty awful.
All right, go ahead. I'll listen.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so when I was a resident, there were very few female plastic surgeons.
I remember that.
Was one of two, and I was the only pregnant plastic surgeon they had ever had. And so they didn't know what to do with me. I was like 6 months pregnant. They didn't have a maternity policy. And so I delivered my son Spencer. I went back to work in 4 weeks because there was no policy. And so they
made you take vacation for the 4 weeks?
Yes. So I took my vacation and they were like, it's so generous. So I was back on rotation and I was at Beekman Hospital and we did everything. So I was doing neurosurgery, urology, cardiovascular, like every single service. And I was nursing. So I was pumping in the call room and it was Friday. This is before Libby Zion. So there were no regulations on, they could make you stay at the hospital 24/7. So I was on Friday. Theoretically, you'd go home Saturday, and then I was back on call Sunday. So I was trying to pump to keep, I was breastfeeding. So the resident, my co-resident was older. I was an intern, and he was a senior. And he said, and I quote, "We've got to toughen you up for cardiac," because I was doing cardiac at NYU the next month. So he made me stay even after the work was done. And I just didn't have the wherewithal to say I'm leaving because, you just didn't
Never
do
did that back in the day.
Right? And so
You
I
didn't
stayed.
have rights.
Yeah, you had no rights. And I literally dried up and could never nurse again after that weekend. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was, it's a
Conflicted, I'm
yeah,
sure.
it's a total lose-lose situation because you can't, if you stand up for yourself, that's
Right.
terrible. I already was causing trouble because I was pregnant and then had a baby, and I'm
nerve.
trying to I'm
Right.
trying to keep
The audacity.
keep it on the TL that I was pregnant and delivered a baby, and even that I was pumping. Like I didn't
Right.
want anyone to know. It wasn't like a
Right.
public thing that there's Hazen in the call room pumping. Like anyway, it was awful. So that was my worst story, or one of them. So
I don't know if I have a main one story,
Yeah.
but it's just kind of a general theme. Like you just know that you can't slip.
Yeah.
Because they already believe, well, not they, I would hate to generalize, but there's an assumption among some parties in our field that believes that we shouldn't be there as
Right.
women, or even worse, as minority women. So you're entering a space that's not necessarily welcoming, and you have to be, there's no room for mistakes.
I agree with that.
Zero room for
100%.
mistakes. Because
100%.
then it just gives them license to say they were right. So it is a lot of pressure. It makes you work harder, maybe harder than your colleagues.
It's also, in my case, it made me just shut up. Like I never complained about
Right.
anything.
That might be why I didn't tell anybody and sat there in end-stage kidney disease for that long.
Yeah,
But,
I'm guessing that became a habit.
Yeah,
Maybe
because you don't want to admit weakness. You
Right.
can't. You can't be weak. You
No.
have to be the best at all times.
100%.
I mean, it does make you a little bit resentful when you see them glorify people who are absolutely average and you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like expected because you should just be happy to be here.
Right. I think that's the thing. There is this expectation that maybe you are going to fuck up.
And they're just waiting on it.
And they're waiting on it. And you can't rest.
Right.
You really can't.
You can't rest physically, emotionally, or mentally.
And you can't let your guard down.
Nope.
And there's a lot of stuff you can't say.
Right.
So, and I maybe that's changing. I don't know.
I think as a resident, I did have work hours. It was like maybe a year or two into the work
yeah,
hours.
because that
So
case
they
had
couldn't-
already happened.
Right,
so
they couldn't
that
make me
was better.
stay. But, I felt that being an attending was a little bit more challenging because now you have to have someone accept that you're in a position of authority.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was the hardest because you're not supposed to be an authority. And they kind of handle you sometimes like you're not. And then now I can't respond how a man responds because then I'm the B word or I'm angry.
You could say it.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a catch-22 that you can be frustrated about something, but you can't communicate it because then you become every stereotype they want you to be. So
100%. So I think you and I use the similar strategies of humor, and then I just play dumb, and that people
I'll have to
accept.
work on that part.
Because they want to believe that anyway, that
You're not
a
gonna
lot
change certain
less
people's mind.
smart than they are. So that works really well for me.
But the problem, when it gets worse, is when they know that you're smarter than them and they're mad about it, but they want you not to know that you're smarter than them. So they kind of oppress you and beat you down so that you will question yourself.
That's a good
And
one.
it's a great strategy
It is a
if
good
you're
strategy.
if you're on the other side, because
Yeah.
it's a way to keep you under control. Because the whole game is to control you, right?
Right.
So that's how they remain in control. Well, they can't. You have no license over intellect. You cannot control how much someone knows and how much knowledge they acquire. That part you have complete autonomy over.
That's true. So what advice do you, I know, I mean, so many people look to you as a mentor, women, Black women. What advice do you give them?
In what area?
In the area of being a surgeon.
For me, I just try to get better every day.
Mm-hmm.
I try to get better every day, technically. I try to be open to any kind of innovation. I don't think NYU was necessarily the best place for that in the beginning. They're getting better at that now.
Yeah,
being
they
at the
are getting
cutting
better
edge.
at it.
Yeah, before it was like, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, they
But
would just do the NYU way. No, but I do
NYU
think
way.
it's
a lot better now.
It is, and there's a lot of innovation, which is exciting.
Right. The other part, how to kind of navigate the social aspects of it. You can only be you. It's a lot less stress if you just be you at all times. Be kind, be compassionate, and be understanding. Some people don't know they're dumb. Some people really don't know that they're really and truly ignorant, and you can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
You can just be the best version of yourself every day and be kind. And for patients though, really focus on getting to know them and creating not a bond, but some form of level where you guys can interact, because then they'll tell you everything. And if they can tell you everything, then you can really help them, because sometimes some of the diagnoses are wrapped up in the story. And if they're giving you 4 and 5 words, it makes it incredibly difficult to make the diagnoses.
That's a really good point. You really have to have a relationship, and they've got to really trust you.
Yes.
So that they tell you what's up, because people, patients they withhold information all the time, and then
because they're afraid of being judged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not a nefarious act. It's just, it's self-protective.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being my guest.
Is it over?
Wait, you are amazing. You're an amazing person. I love talking to you all the time. And thank you.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. Aww. Where's Theo?
Yeah, where's Theo? Where's Theo when we need her?
Yes, and Theo's in the chair.
Oh my God, you're so good. You biatch.